Here.
Perfect.
Here. Move on to the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the village council. Will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately immediately after the consent agenda from the sequence on the regular agenda.
Louder, please.
Okay, sorry. Move that microphone up.
I would like to move number 5 from the agenda and put that on number 3 of the business.
Making that number 3, you said?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support. Roll call.
Michael.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Reichert.
Yes.
Alsa. Kirkchank.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes. We now have a presentation from Chief McGee.
Thank you very much. I have two young ladies here that on the 4th of July, I don't know if she's here.
Oh, go ahead and face it.
I do that. On the 4th of July at the Township Park on Holly Bush, you can go. These ladies were protecting our citizens at the beach, and a 24-year-old male had swum out to the raft out there, and he had played basketball all morning, and was very dehydrated, and he started cramping up. So these ladies noticed that and saw that he was struggling, and so he started to go under. So we have Brianna Corbin and Cassie Brinker. So what they did is they were guarding it. They immediately hit the water. They swam out and they made the rescue and brought him in. He was lethargic, in and out of consciousness. The fire department responded as well, and then advanced life support team, also from Groveland, started IVs to try to revive him. And so we've talked a lot about this with Supervisor Ellis, because it's a township park and of course our village council. And this is kind of a unified craze, I guess you could say. They did a wonderful job. The guy is doing wonderful now. He's fine. He's home. He was actually treated and released. They watched him for a while for secondary drowning symptoms and asthma. So they released him later that afternoon. So we have an award for each of them, and it's, even though it says it's from the Village of Holly Fire Department, it's really from our community. And what it says is, with deepest appreciation, proudly presents the life-saving award to Brianna Horkins and an identical awarding to Cassidy Brinker for your exemplary efforts in saving the life of a 24-year-old male on July 4th, 2017, who was signed by myself and the council president and the village manager. And we're very proud and can't thank them enough.
This is the first incident we've had in 27 years at our beach, and luckily we had just re-certified everybody in the brand new Red Cross training, and Bree got to experience the new style of lifeguarding and saved the guy's life. Cassidy actually rescued his two friends who he had a hold of and was taken underwater with him. So I just want to say this just so everybody remembers this. People who are drowning don't care if you're their best friend, because it was his brother-in-law and his nephew that he was taking down. So please remember, hand someone something, don't hand them yourself, okay? I'm very proud of both of them.
Thank you, Chief McGee. Thank you, young ladies. We're going to now enter into the public hearing regarding Public Act 218, medical marijuana. I would ask that when you come up to speak, please be respectful of each other. We're going to limit comment once per person. We don't have redundancies. No banter, no catcalling. Please, whoever's speaking, they have the floor. Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Public comment? Yes, sir. Oh, wow, she was running.
I'm Fred Kelly from the Holly VFW, Post 5587. We, the members of Hewlett Bravender, Post 5587, are opposed to the village council adopting ordinances that would allow any of the 5 kinds of facilities provided for in the state of Michigan's medical marijuana facilities licensing act. We do not want any of these facilities within the village of Holly. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly. Yes, ma'am.
Julie Carmen, 203 North Saginaw Street. 3 years ago, my husband and I moved to Holly from Northern California. I grew up in Michigan, but did not know much about Holly. A friend brought us here and we fell in love with the town and bought a house 600 feet from the village. We found Holly to be a welcoming, friendly, and giving community and are thrilled to be a part of it. I am a cancer survivor of 7 years. My cancer treatment consisted of surgeries, chemotherapy, and radiation, which were brutal. I feel blessed to be a survivor, yet my treatment left me in constant pain from the side effects. My doctors recommended pain pills to manage it, yet I was unable to tolerate them. I turned to medical marijuana and educated myself on what would be the best course of action to deal with my pain. I learned that cannabis has come a long way. Cannabis can help with a host of many different ailments, such as arthritis, reduces seizures, anxiety, supports digestive system, reduces inflammation, kills or slows bacteria growth, increases blood flow, inhibits growth of tumor and cancer cells, reduces or eliminates pain, just to name a few. Having the ability to use cannabis, either in cream, tinctures, sprays, capsules, or patches, has allowed me to live a healthy and productive life and to not be burdened with the constant pain. I would be happy to talk to anyone who is looking to educate themselves on finding relief for their health issues. I hope you never receive that cancer call, yet if you do, come see me. I hope that you will find compassion in your heart when casting your vote. Thank you.
Laura Davidson, 434 Sherwood Court. I have the same message that I've delivered to you many times before. I'm a no vote in favor of the closed community/family structure. We should not open the door to the marijuana industry. Upgrade the community, but don't change our culture. We are a blessed one. Further discussion will be more of the same comments, all looking, saying they're the truth. But what's the truth? I know you're all smart, and I expect that you will vote no and close the door to any further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Mishler, 620 Academy Road. I'm going to ask somebody else to come up here and help me. Sam? I can multitask, but I'm getting older. Sam's with the VFW, Sam Alvarado, and I'm with the American Legion and the Holly Area Veterans Resource Center, and I can't tell you how many other organizations. And I've taught him for 38 and a half years. And I have a couple of things. First off, these are petitions that were circulated in an effort to get you to vote against this proposal. There are two types of petitions. One are residents of Holly, and the other are supporters of the village, not necessarily residents. So I'd like to give these to you. We are also a proud veterans community, thanks to the VFW and making us a Purple Heart community. So we have a great stake in this community. And we have a stake in this community in keeping it what a lot of us really like. We are not going to argue the merits of medical marijuana. That's a whole different argument. But what comes with all of this is not necessarily medical marijuana. And that's what a lot of us are concerned about. And we hope that you vote against this and don't open the doors. Because this is not a fight for a little town like Holly. This isn't a fight for us at all. This is a fight on the federal and state level. And as some of you already know that, most of you already know that. This battle is being fought on the bigger levels. And it's our opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people who signed and others, that you make a motion tonight to put a moratorium on this for our community for, say, 2 years. Let them slug this out someplace else. And if the federal government says, yeah, okay, but not in our community. We don't want it here. And we urge all of you to respect those wishes because it is a great community. And this Purple Heart thing is just part of it, and we're very proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Gentleman over there. Sorry about that.
My name is Matthew Semrau. I live at 1024 Hubble Drive in Holly, Michigan. In regards to medical marijuana, I'd like to address how I believe the Village Council should be considering the law and medical needs of its citizens. To begin, I don't believe we should be punishing law-abiding citizens because some may or may not break the law. Already, we have laws in place to punish the dangerous use of controlled and regulated substances. We don't forbid driving in the Village of Holly because someone might drive drunk. We don't close down pharmacies because people might abuse medication. We don't prevent new gas stations because someone might give cigarettes to minors. The time to determine the validity of this law has come and gone. 63% of Michigan voters voted to legalize medical marijuana in 2008. It's the law in Michigan. The village shouldn't be vetoing the people based on personal, outdated biases. We don't deny that there may be challenges, but those challenges already exist with alcohol, cigarettes, and other prescription drugs. This is medicine. Medical marijuana is more regulated than many other prescription drugs. These prescription medications are far more addictive, far more dangerous, and far more likely to be abused, yet they are dispensed in Holly daily at Rite Aid and CVS. Access requires thorough documentation, that is access to medical marijuana, requires thorough documentation of medical needs in addition to a license from the state. Medical marijuana is often a last resort for people with serious medical issues. These are medical issues which often limit daily activity, hinder movement, and provide immense amount of suffering. My mother is one of those people. She lived in constant pain without medical marijuana, and after having exhausted all other options and overcoming her own personal biases against medical marijuana, finally resorted to that. The Village Council should consider heavily the medical needs of its citizens. Those with mobility issues struggle even to get to Flint. The nearest dispensary with even a sufficient number of choices is in Arbor. Imagine if you had to travel to Ann Arbor every time you needed to pick up a prescription. In conclusion, those seeking permit of the licensing of medical marijuana businesses are law-abiding business people as well as concerned and suffering citizens. The bygone misconceptions of marijuana should not be the basis of your decision, but on the present reality of scientific and rational truth. Thank you.
Great answer. She waved over there.
My name is Dr. Kathleen Asseltine. I'm a professor in Magana University, Hospice and Palliative Care Nursing Department. I also am a mental health care provider, and I work with a lot of people as well as I teach courses on trauma. One of the things that we are finding, as you may have already heard, that often the drugs that we use in the opioids to give veterans, and there are so many veterans, and the high suicide rate are a real concern for us that work in the field of traumatology. We've been finding, and there is scientific evidence, and I'd be happy as an educator to share any of my sources for you, but we are finding that marijuana, medical marijuana, has great potential and has scientific evidence that rather than being put on massive amounts of psychotropic drugs, that medical marijuana can help these veterans not only heal from some of the traumas, but avoid some of the heavy opioids that they're taking, and hopefully reduce the huge suicide rate of our veterans. I think that there is evidence-based that medical marijuana used properly, there's physical relief, there's mental relief, and suffering. I don't know if you all know what hospice is. That means you're going to live 6 months or less. And there are just some pharmaceutical drugs that don't help these people with intractable pain. And this also brings up the issue, people are now going for physician-assisted suicide. It's often because their pain cannot be managed by our traditional opioids. So medical marijuana also has a benefit for that. There's all kinds of different chronic illnesses, which was what palliative care treats, cancer, asthma, seizures, you name it. There's potential and ongoing research for how medical marijuana can help things that the drugs that we now have available to us just cannot touch. I believe that in the near future, we're going to find out more and more that there's evidence for this. More and more physicians, if you're to look at the scientific literature, you'll see more and more physicians are using this in their practice. Universities are using this in their practice. Big healthcare systems are using this in their practice, and they're finding out amazing things. Part of the problem is marijuana has been so restrictive in its classification that research has not been allowed. So I would encourage you to study this further. The regulations, if you haven't studied them, are quite restrictive and quite in detail, and to be able to get a license to do this would involve quite a bit of fail-safe things for some of the things I think you're concerned about. So in closing, I would be happy to talk to any of you, or if anybody wants to know about hospice or palliative care, or what we can do to help our veterans, to help solve their issues of trauma and their high suicide rate. I'd be more than happy to work or provide any information for you on that. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Stephanie James, 3305 Grange Hall Road, apartment 1. I am a chronic pain patient and take high doses of opiate painkillers every day. I would prefer not to take these medications because, as many people have said, they are quite addictive and they do have some severe side effects, including accidental overdose, even if you take them as prescribed. According to the American Academy of Pain Medicine, more than 100 million Americans suffer from chronic pain. The number of opiate prescriptions have doubled over the last decade. In states that have both legal marijuana, medical marijuana, and a dispensing system, such as dispensaries, pharmacies, whatever you'd like to call them, opiate deaths have dropped by an average of 25%. Hospitalizations dropped by an average of 13%. If people were allowed to purchase legal, restricted license medical marijuana in Holly, it would make things so much easier for people like me. Today is a good day. I'm lucky I can stand here. Normally I'm in a wheelchair. And it's difficult for me to get to Ann Arbor or Flint or down to Detroit. If I can get opiates that may kill me accidentally by driving 2 minutes from my house, shouldn't I be able to get a medication that has never been linked to a death in the entire known history of marijuana use in the United States? Marijuana has never led to an overdose. Please consider the people around you, the citizens who take their medications legally but would prefer to have a more natural alternative. Thank you.
My name is Cheryl Everly. I live at 314 Hadley Street in Holly, and I've lived there all my life. And I just want to say I just came back from a nice vacation in Eugene, Oregon. And medical marijuana has been legal in Oregon for probably about 3 or 4 years. And recreational marijuana was just legalized last year. It's a lovely city. I had a great day. I went to the downtown farmers market. I traveled all over. Nobody blew smoke in my face. Nobody had a fight. Nobody had a syringe in their arm. Nothing horrible happened the whole week I was there. I also want to say that because I've lived in Holly my whole life, back in the 60s, maybe the early 70s, we actually had a head shop in Holly. And it was run by a Vietnam veteran. And it was a legitimate business. And I think that as long as marijuana is medically legal in this state and is a legitimate business, we should not close our doors to legitimate businesses, because obviously there are needs, and I know the rules are going to change, and if you wanted to do a moratorium, that would make sense. But I think closing the doors is just silly.
My name is Joanna Barnes, and I live at 3393 Harrington Drive. I really struggled with whether I was going to come today or not for a couple of reasons, mainly because of the stigmatism that a lot of people decide follows this. I have my own, which I guess you would call a business, a little crafting business. I see one of my hairpieces over here on her hair. Yeah, it's gorgeous. And that's something that I started doing for pain therapy, because I don't suffer from cancer. I suffer from a pancreatic disorder that I was born with. I didn't know that I had it. And I also take care of my father, who's on home hospice, and you've heard some information about hospice and what's involved in that. And those two things together have led for a very difficult life for me, to be able to function on a daily basis, not only for the responsibilities I have to take care of my father, but then my own pain needs and issues. And although crafting helps me tremendously, narcotics make me very ill. At this point in my life, I've had five MDs tell me that medical marijuana is the answer. I have my card, but there are days where I can't get to some place to be able to pick up medication because I'm in too much pain, and I don't have anybody that can drive me. I just have myself. My husband works long hours, my son is not able to drive, and my daughter has her own family. So that means that leaves me many times with the only other option of a narcotic, which actually makes my condition worse. On top of that, my father is on hospice partially because of a heroin addiction that he had. And you know how he beat that heroin addiction? Medical marijuana. So it's not a gateway the way that everybody says that it is. I watched him use that as a supplement to be able to get that poison out of his body, and then decide that he was going to stop using marijuana because he wanted to be clean completely for the small amount of time that he had left in his life. That's his choice, and I respect it. And he respects mine. But to close the doors completely on this and to shut off this opportunity for so many people who struggle so much, physically, mentally, emotionally, not just them, but their families, it's cruel. It's not just about keeping our city the wonderful place, our town the wonderful place that it is. The people are not going to change because we have better access to medicine that's going to help us have less pain. That I can promise you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Jackie Campbell, 807 Mary Ann, Holly. I've been going back and forth since actually 2012, all the way up to 2014 when we were first addressed with the medical marijuana. I've been doing my own research and talking to Washington, as well as the AMA, the DEA, as well as our senators, congressmen, and even our rep, Mr. Graves, and his assistants, Kim. One of the major things that has come out to me is that the federal government said that they are not going to change their mind. It is illegal, it will stay illegal. And they said, you must go back to your state to address. When I went back to the state of Michigan, and I went to many of their councils there, and when they had their meetings, they came back and they're struggling with the same thing you people are. Number one, we don't have enough information to clear the marijuana right now. And they said because the AMA said that there are physicians out there, and we all know it, that will get their own kickbacks in their own certain ways because of them just saying, I agree, you need the marijuana. Sometimes marijuana can do some good, but you can take out the opiates that for the marijuana to get high, and you can exchange it out with like creams, lotions, pill forms, the same ingredients that's in the marijuana, but it is not marijuana. There's other things that we have to consider also, and that is to our police department. Our police go out there, and it's like what told to me by the state of Michigan and the state police, all of them. There is nothing out there really to protect our officers. They said, yes, we have the right to arrest them if we think they're impaired, but that will also set us up for a multitude of lawsuits. And I mean, common sense needs to prevail here. One day, I do see marijuana passing. I hope not for a long time, but I do see one day. But it's not now. We have too many unanswered questions that need to be answered to protect every citizen. I hear people about the medical marijuana. I've had the cancer, I've had the radiation, I've had chemo, I've had the back surgeries, I've been through everything. Many of you know this. Not once have I ever gone to marijuana. Not once am I on the high opiates. I pack myself in the ice, and I deal with the pain, and I'm in a wheelchair. But that is of my own choice. I'm a very strong individual. And that is my choice to do it that way. Same as it's the choice of every other citizen to choose whether they want marijuana or not. But I had to listen to one senator, and I cried my heart out when his daughter-in-law and her children were killed. And it was by somebody who was high, was on prescribed medication, but was also was high from marijuana. And they were all destroyed. These are things each and every one of you are going to say, you're going to have to take responsibility for it. So all I'm saying is you better think real deep and hard, because we're a long ways off from hearing the truth yet. We're a long ways off from getting this stuff resolved. But one day I do see it coming, but it's not now. Thank you.
Thank you. Please keep in mind that we're going to limit it to 4 minutes. Okay? Yes, sir. You're up next.
Hi, I'm Dick Purcell. I live at 512 East Maple Street in Holly. I'd like to say that I'm opposed to Holly taking this on for a lot of reasons, and I won't get into it. But there's a couple of misnomers that I've been listening to that I want to straighten out. Medical marijuana, I don't think very many people in this room reject it. I think many of us see the need for it and the value. But that is available. You can go to Burton or Davison nearby and get that. I've heard several things about veterans. I don't like talking about this, but I am a combat veteran of Vietnam. I am diagnosed with PTSD, and I'm on disability for it. There's quite a few guys back here that are the same boat. We drive to Ann Arbor or Saginaw for our treatment. That's what we have to do. We don't go around the corner. And I don't think the VA, at any time in your future, is going to be prescribing marijuana. They're a federal agency, and it's federally against the law. So it doesn't really happen. I hope that you'll keep this out of our time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Clark, 602 South Broad, Holly. As someone who circulated the petitions and talked to a great deal of the people who are residents in this village and also who come to our car show, of which I'm a part, I can tell you, and you have the petitions in hand, people do not want dispensaries and the rest of it here in Holly. No one's against medical marijuana, and I think if we table this for a couple of years and see what happens, with the laws, it would be a much better idea. It's way too soon to do it now, and I really, really urge you to think about this, because once you do it, you can't go back. And I feel for everybody who's in pain and who needs this, but not in my village. Thank you. I have a 6-month-old grandson, not in my village. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
I'm Gregory Semrau. I live at 1024 Hubble Drive. My wife Carol is a medical marijuana patient. It's the only thing that has been effective without side effects of alleviating her fibromyalgia pain. She grew up thinking that marijuana was only a bad thing, but after suggestions from her pastor and her family doctor, who's not generally an advocate, that it might be an alternative for her situation, she has found it to be very effective pain reliever. Even in small doses, it works for her, and she really gets a high sensation from it. The main bad thing is, even though it's been nearly 10 years since Michigan voters overwhelmingly approved medical use of marijuana for specific conditions, it is still to this day very inconvenient for caregivers and patients to obtain this medication in many areas. From Holly, it is at least a half-hour trip each way, and some of the best dispensaries in Ann Arbor are even further. People with serious medical issues do not need additional cost and inconvenience to obtain their medications. They usually have plenty of this in their lives already. We never consider this situation for those buying controlled substances prescriptions at CVS or Rite Aid, or persons buying cigarettes or beer for recreational purposes. Local government should be promoting the rights and liberties of its citizens and business people, not infringing upon them. I challenge you as council members to seriously consider the impact on individuals and businesses' liberties as you cast your vote on medical marijuana licensing for the village of Holly.
Thank you.
Alvarado, 17088 Fish Lake Road, Holly, Michigan. I was a medic in the tunnel right in Vietnam, and I was stabbed 5 times in the tunnel. And I usually don't talk about this, but I also am treated for PTSD. And there's no
no way would I even consider medical marijuana or any kind of marijuana use for me. I'm also a mentor at the 51st District Court, and I work with at least 20 veterans through there, and none of them, absolutely none of them, use any opiates or any kind of medical marijuana products. So I hope, I'm not going to argue about it, but all I've heard before is that they want it here because of the money. So, and I also know a lot of guys that just brag about they got a medical marijuana card, don't really need it. They're just bragging about it to get the legal marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shauna Campbell, 4261 Grange Hall Road. I have chronic fibromyalgia, and I have a C4 and C5 spinal injury. I have been offered that, and I refuse to take it. I use other forms, the natural remedies. I think you should table the discussion. I wish and hope and pray that you do until more information comes out, because for me, it's not even an option. And there are other ways to deal with chronic pain. I hope you vote no.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jane Watkins. A lot of you might know me, and I'm standing here today for the people that I love. I do recognize a lot of you, and I respect each and every one of your guys' opinions. This is kind of just, I won it, but I do believe marijuana is an alternative for many other substances. My generation, we all hear about it. Opiates, it's a big problem. People I love use medical marijuana. My Uncle Joey, he had Lou Gehrig's disease. He took edibles, he was very against it. And it was the only thing in his last year of life that made his legs stop shaking. My grandma is my world. And if I got more time with my grandma because she bit the bullet and she went against her gut and she tried medical marijuana. She had pulmonary lung disease. She was born with it, and it was the only thing that helped her. And to me, that's important, because not a lot of you get to experience your grandma for long. My Aunt Susie, she has neuropathy in her feet. For any of you who don't know what that is, that's her nerves, her feet swell, she can't walk. She's had a full mastectomy, she's had breast cancer. She's had 3 stomach surgeries. And her liver enzymes were through the roof. She was not doing well, not at all. And my Aunt Susie, she got off all of her pain meds that she's been taking for 10 plus years by responsibly using medical marijuana. The important people in my life needed it, and I'm here standing for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, did you state your address? You said your name, you didn't state your address. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lenore Johnston, 713 Mary Ann. I've listened to a lot of stories about the use of marijuana as a medical alternative. My sympathies go out to those people, but that's not the whole issue here. This is an act that deals with several sections of the manufacture, production, growth, and so on of marijuana, not just a dispensary or an approval of the use of marijuana for pain. I voted for medical marijuana. I think most of us here support that and understand there are circumstances where this is the best alternative. That's not the question here. Marijuana is still illegal on the federal level. The state is still working hard to define and put regulations on it. How do they test for marijuana? When do they tell you you've had too much? Businesses are still testing their employees for marijuana? What if the state says it's okay, but the business says it isn't? I mean, there's so many questions out there that they are working on and they will solve. And I would just like to see Holly, at this point in time, sit back and let some of these solutions be worked out before we jump into that pool. Thank you.
Susan Papel, 12021 North Holly Road. I'm the director of the Holly Area Community Coalition. We've been in this community for 18 years doing substance abuse prevention. I have a letter from our board that they would like me to read. To the Village of Holly Council, on behalf of the Holly Area Community Coalition, we wish it to be known that we are opposed to the establishment of any marijuana-related facilities in our community. While we recognize that there are medicinal benefits to marijuana, we feel the proposed method of production and distribution are counterintuitive to everything our community is about. We have concerns about the potential impacts to safety, economics, and our youth. Additionally, we feel that there's a need to be a significant look at the data specific to our area to better understand and anticipate the impact this industry would have on our area youth and our community as a whole. There is no foreseeable shortage of investors interested in getting involved in the medical marijuana industry, which means there is no rush to move forward with any of the 5 available license options. We'd ask that the council and village administration use the upcoming months to see what the actual impact of the new medical marijuana laws will be once they go into effect here in Michigan. At this time, we don't know how the industry impacts a small village located between 2 cities like Pontiac and Flint. We don't have a full understanding of safety concerns. We don't have a full understanding of the economic impact and how this may or may not adversely affect economic development programs like our DDA or our Main Street accreditation. We do not have a fair idea of what the financial increase would be and whether it is enough to offset the additional costs that will need to be incurred. We believe that it is in the best interest of our community to revisit this issue after some real data is available from similar communities here in Michigan, rather than moving ahead with inadequate information and running the risk of creating a situation that may prove to be detrimental both socially and economically. We ask you to consider the medical marijuana law and the establishment of the industry in our community and how it might undermine our organization's purpose, which is to empower youth in our community to make positive life choices. Thank you for your consideration.
Richard Pikes, 1214 Baycourt, Holly, Michigan. I've been going through spinal realignment through a chiropractor for 4 months now, and we've discussed marijuana, but I found out from him that I can buy raw cannabis oil over the internet, and the government approves it, and it does the same thing as what regular marijuana does. And it's legal. We don't need a dispensary here. You can get it in a couple of days off the internet. Amazon sells it. You can go and Google it. You can find other places that sells it. In fact, just to see about it, I sent for a bottle of raw cannabis oil. I have not used it yet. My pain has not been that bad. I also suffer from anxiety, and the chiropractor is trying to relieve that too. So therefore, I asked the village council to consider tabling this for a couple of years Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. I can't see back there too well. Anybody? Right here. Yeah, I think that'd be easier. If you want to speak, come down up front and that way I'm not staring out into the lights.
Hi, Billy Carmen, 203 North Saginaw, Michigan. You hear me okay? Okay. I'm a state of Michigan licensed cannabis caregiver. Julie Carmen is my only patient. That's my wife. I became a caregiver to be able to acquire cannabis that she needed for her pain. I'm permitted by law to have 5 patients if I choose, but I don't choose to. I did this for my wife. My primary patient is my wife, and we spent 35 years living in some of the finest parts of Southern and Northern California. Prior to moving to Holly 4 years ago, we lived in a little town called Sebastopol. A town about the size of Holly, around 5,000 people, kind of secluded in the country, out of the way. Extraordinarily compassionate town. They really cared for not only the people in their town, but the people that came to it. When we learned of Julie's cancer, it was a tough struggle, and it would be a tough struggle for anybody to take. Seeing the amounts of opioids and other drugs that were prescribed to her was pretty ridiculous. I mean, we could have sold them for $50 a piece on the street and made a lot of money. We flushed them down the toilet. We also learned about living in a very special community of caring and compassionate people. As I said before, Sebastopol was something that I'd love to see Holly become, because I do see a lack of compassion in this town. In Sebastopol, we learned firsthand how to eat healthy, stay fit, and we learned the value and the effectiveness of CBD and medical marijuana. I ask you all, when your spouses are faced with a life-threatening illness or injury, do you restrict what they can get for comfort and healing? Do you force them to limit any type of treatment they may choose just because you don't feel it's right? Are we seriously? I ask you all, do you have anyone in your family or circle of friends that struggles with alcohol? If so, wouldn't it be much better for them to not have to pass 15 alcohol dispensaries and consuming points in the path of their Holly existence? There's no shortage of alcohol here. We have an entity in town that serves discounted beer to raise money for kids with issues. Could it be that those kids are from the parents that are buying the cheap beer? I don't know, ask yourself. It's kind of a strange thing to me. The U.S. Census Disease Control, the CDC, figures on numbers of deaths per year in the USA. It was 237,485 people that died of opioids. Another 5,000 in traffic fatalities due to that. 480,000 to tobacco, 88,013 for alcohol, 4,906 for cocaine. Heroin took 3,365 lives last year, and aspirin, just plain old aspirin, took 466 lives in the United States. Marijuana, 0. You guys have a tough vote. Are you going to turn down the ability for the people in your town to not get the treatment that they need for their pain? I'd remember that one for the next election if you choose to do that. Are you really going to put it to that level just from a lot of unfounded fears? Tabling the idea? I'm not opposed to that, but I think that any American should have right and just abilities to receive what they need to not be in pain. Thank you.
Thank you. One word until we get through. Okay.
I'm sorry. My name is Joe Bino. I'm at 15231 North Holly Road. I own a business in your town, and I've been there for over 8 years. It's hard to bring as many people as we wanted today
we could have probably filled up this whole auditorium with the people that wanted to come forward for today. We didn't need signatures that you have up there, any of that stuff. We have their voice. Problem is the stigma that most of the people have with this makes others shy away from wanting to come in and confront this matter because of the fact that, again, it just puts a bad stigma, someone becomes a bad guy, or someone looks frowned upon because of that. So, in regards to this, I've heard a lot of things today. I heard more whys and why we should, and the reasons that came with the whys that we should than the why nots, because a lot of the why nots were just, we don't need medical marijuana here. Majority said that we don't need it here, but majority didn't say why we don't need it here. What is the reason behind it? Is it everything that we've seen from the 60s, the 70s, the old hippies and all the other stuff that we've seen and all that stigma that follows it? Most likely. In regards to no disrespect to the veterans here today. Majority of veterans do come to my business, believe it or not, and they're younger. Generations have changed. The ones that have gone through war in the last 15 to 20 years are different from the ones that may have served prior to that. No offense, but they have evolved and their mentality has evolved, and they're looking for other avenues than what they have been given in the past. I myself don't smoke marijuana. I myself use creams for a situation that has happened to me back in 1999 that I lost my arm and still to this day face pain. I refuse to touch any of that garbage. To this day, I've probably gotten more kids than most would know. But it's not for me to speak on and say who and what, but we do privately. They come into our business, 16, 17, 18 years old. We talk, we speak, we educate. We're not here to push, we're not here to promote, we're not here to do anything of that sort. Now, on the other half, I spoke to somebody here in town, and I know there was an issue to say, per se, if anything like that, law enforcement may be an issue. In my opinion, if you do anything like this and do decide to move forward with it, why not impose an ordinance to say that the people that will have this type of business be enforcing their own security and have the ability, if you say, like Detroit and others did, where 7 p.m. is the time that they have to close, then 7 p.m. so be it, from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. when they have to be open again, they have to have some type of patrol service of their own private security available versus our own to have to use. That way it won't take away from our law enforcement if we can enforce that upon them to have them do that, which it can be implemented because it's an ordinance, right? And the other thing is that I do want to say is, you know, it's in the end, they're going to go to get it wherever they're going to get it. Let's be real. So at the end of the day, we're putting our own, you're putting your own residents at risk here to have to go other places to do this business to get it. And the distance, the drive, some of the places and where they have to go may not be the most likable places because of the approval and what have you. But at the end of the day, these people are asking for it. And again, the tough part about it is because the stigma that comes behind it, that we can't have as many people voice his opinion. So I do believe you guys should proceed and think about it because again, there isn't just the whole perception of smoking this thing. 68% of it is now more towards oil-based, concentrated-based, tincture-based, lotion-based. And one last thing, if it's that bad, and since we cannot do research here in the United States because our federal government has labeled it so bad as a class 1, why is Canada and the Netherlands right now doing cross